In the dead of night, Russian drones crossed into Poland, sparking one of the most dangerous moments Europe has faced in decades. Sirens wailed as Poland scrambled fighter jets, shut airports, and activated NATO defenses. Officials insist this was no accident, while whispers in Brussels suggest Moscow is testing the alliance's limits. For Poland, a NATO member on the front line, the implications are staggering. Was Russia's drone strike on Poland a deliberate act of aggression, a miscalculation, or something in between? And what does this mean, not just for Poland, but for NATO's eastern flank and Europe's stability? Let's break down why this drone attack could change everything. It first started on the night of the 9th to 10th of September 2025. Roughly 19 to 23 drones had allegedly launched from Russia and breached Polish airspace. The incursion spanned regions in eastern, central, and northern Poland. Poland, along with NATO assets, responded by scrambling fighter jets and activating air defense systems. Up to 4 of those drones were shot down, including by Dutch F-35s. Poland also closed airspace over some airports such as Warsaw International, Warsaw Modlin, Rzeszów-Jasionka, and Lublin, and triggered a quick reaction alert. Afterwards, Poland invoked Article 4 of the NATO Treaty, which is the clause that allows a member country to request consultations when it feels its security is being threatened. The incursion and shootdowns are a serious breach. It was not only a breach of Poland's airspace, but also NATO's borders. After the drone strike, the damage was limited. One house in Lublin Voivodeship had its roof damaged by one of the drones. But what made this airspace violation so important was the number of drones involved, how deep several of them had flown into Polish territory, and the coordination of the response. Tensions between Poland and Russia became even worse almost immediately after the drone incursion. Poland faced another risk factor when the scheduled Zapad 2025 military exercises, a joint Russian-Belarusian drill, began. These exercises are taking place near Poland's border, in Belarus and Western Russia. But what makes this timing very complicated and alarming is because they happened after the drone breaching incident. Once Poland realized this, it announced the closure of its border with Belarus from midnight on September and restricted all crossings including rail, protecting itself from what seems like Russia's aggressions. The reason for this was simply national security. Poland's leadership called the drills very aggressive from a military doctrine perspective, and said that they were concerned about the threats close to its borders. In a defensive stance, Poland also deployed around 40,000 troops along its eastern border with Belarus and the Russian exclave of Kaliningrad. These deployments were defensive in nature and secured the border regions, reinforced readiness, and signaled resolve. As Poland makes different moves to protect itself against Russia and take advantage of NATO's resources, Russia is denying anything that happened and has a completely different idea of what had happened. For one, the Kremlin and Russian government spokespeople have said that they had no intention to violate Polish airspace, although that's hard to believe when 19 drones literally entered in a coordinated move. Russia's stance is that the drones were supposed to go to Ukraine as part of military operations, and so their entry into Poland was either unintended or a result of navigation failures. Russia has also claimed that the range of drones used doesn't make it plausible for them to have reached Polish territory, at least not deeply, which would argue against a deliberate violation. But Poland doesn't agree with this and has said that the drones encroached into eastern, northern, and central Poland. As for the Zapad 2025 exercises, Russia and Belarus are defending them, saying that it's a routine and pre-planned, and not targeted at any foreign country. It's easy to say that this is true, but it's too much of a coincidence that this happened after the drone strike on Poland. These denials by Russia are part of a broader diplomatic play, as Russia is simply trying to play this down as an unintentional mistake. In a statement, the Russian embassy had said, "The Polish side once again failed to present evidence of the Russian origin of the objects that entered Polish airspace, and there is no reason to expect that it will," and completely groundlessly accused Russia of provocative actions. Russia has pretty much turned the situation around as a false accusation, although it presents a case. Belarus, one of Russia's closest allies, has also said that the drones fired by both sides in the conflict had been impacted by electronic warfare assets, causing them to go astray from their intended paths. Belarus also said that it destroyed wayward drones over its territory. Given all the facts, analysts and governments are bringing up different ideas about why the drones had entered Polish airspace in the first place. And the most likely reason is to test Poland and NATO's defense readiness. The scale of the incursion included multiple drones, covering different routes and the depth inside Poland, and the coordinated response suggests that this might have been a way to test Poland and figure out how fast and how well the Polish and NATO forces can respond. The strike could also figure out the gaps in radar, air defense, detection, and reaction time. Another possible reason might have been spying and reconnaissance. Some political analysts have said that some drones may have been gathering intelligence on the terrain, air defense locations, and response patterns. Even drones that don't succeed in causing damage can provide valuable information if they're allowed to escape or be lost. Russia might also be signaling to NATO and Poland that its operations are not confined strictly to Ukraine, and that it has the capability to violate NATO airspace. This could also be a strategy of intimidation or to create psychological pressure, affecting internal Polish politics, impacting NATO's posture, and extracting diplomatic concessions. Or it could just be what Russia had said as collateral damage from Ukraine operations. With Ukraine's increased use of drones in the war against Russia, Moscow has also focused on responding in the same way. It's possible that some drones drifted off mission or lost control, or were intended for Ukraine targets but got diverted. But given how many drones crossed and how far some flew, this explanation isn't exactly compelling. And another less believable explanation that Russia has given is a mistake or technical failure. They say that GPS errors, lost communication, electronic interference, or misnavigation could cause drones to stray. This is always a possibility when using unmanned aircraft. But with the coordinated nature and the number of drones involved, if this was a mistake, it's a large and perhaps worrying kind of mistake. But the current tensions that are arising between NATO-backed Poland and Russia didn't arise in a vacuum. Instead, there's a history of tensions, border frictions, and distrust between these regions. Since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, Poland has been one of Ukraine's most vocal and material backers. This has caused a lot of friction with Russia alone. What's more, Belarus has always been a strong partner of Russia and acts as a staging ground, buffer, or facilitator in operations like logistics and airspace. Poland and its neighbors have also expressed some concerns about Russian activity near Belarusian borders. It doesn't help matters when Russia keeps on organizing military exercises like Zapad near the Polish border, as it seems more like a show of force rather than a simple routine. In recent years, Zapad exercises have happened around the same time with Russian troop deployments and alerts near NATO burgers. This has increased the fear that such drills may have dual purpose. Airspace violations or near violations have happened many times before. Poland and other Baltic states have said previously that Russian drones, aircraft, and missiles always cross or get close to their borders. But the night of 9th to 10th September, this happened on an unprecedented scale and visibility. And with the support of NATO, Poland doesn't want to take this lying down. In response to what happened, NATO has moved quickly to prove its posture. On the 12th of September 2025, NATO launched a mission called Eastern Sentry. The goal is to strengthen defense of Europe's eastern flank, integrating air and ground assets from several member states such as Denmark, France, UK, and Germany. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte immediately responded to the attack, describing the drone incursions as reckless and unacceptable. He also emphasized that Allied airspace must be respected. Also, the Supreme Allied Commander in Europe, General Alexis Grinkowicz, reaffirmed that NATO would defend every inch of its territory. But NATO isn't just responding with mouth. It has added additional fighter jets, ground-based defense systems, and naval assets under Eastern Sentry. The main point is to plug gaps, improve air defense readiness, and ensure rapid response capability. At the same time, Poland has tightened border security, restricted airspace in certain zones, and ramped up monitoring. The United States has already vowed to defend Poland and NATO in general. they have played a significant diplomatic role following the incident. At the United Nations Security Council, the acting U.S. Ambassador Dorothy Shea reaffirmed U.S. commitment to defending every inch of NATO territory after the suspected Russian drone incursion. President Donald Trump had also responded to the attack, although he suggested that the incursion might have been a mistake. This was met with a strong pushback from Polish leaders like the Prime Minister Donald Tusk and Foreign Minister Radoslaw Sikorski. Both rejected the idea that it was accidental. He insisted that the event was deliberate. The U.S. seems to be striking a balance by condemning the incursion and reinforcing NATO commitments, but at the same time, avoiding being dragged into instant escalation with Russia. Afterwards, if the tension escalates, it won't simply be a conflict between Poland and Russia. Instead, it might involve other NATO countries and the U.S. In fact, many are asking whether Russia could attack Poland. This is an important question, but Russia is unlikely to launch a full-scale attack, and for several practical reasons. Russia is already deeply engaged in the war in Ukraine, and its military resources are stretched. So, any direct attack on a NATO member will trigger a much broader conflict under Article 5. What Russia can do, and seems to be doing, is probing, testing, and signaling. It has been doing so through frequent border incursions, drone operations, and military exercises near NATO borders, all to keep NATO on edge and test its reaction times. Another reason is that Poland is pretty strong, especially since it's supported by NATO, so any larger aggression would come at high risk. But the risk remains. If there's any accident or miscalculation, it could trigger an escalation between the two countries. Whether Russia's drone movement in Poland is simply a mistake or a provocation remains to be seen. But it becomes clear that even a small drone crossing the borders can cause large consequences. What do you think the next step will be for Russia? Let's know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date on global military events.